On this episode of the Well Off Podcast, we meet Sean Martin, an author, a transformational coach with a story of inspiration from prison to positivity.
Sean is going to talk to us about what he learned while he was in prison and a lot of things that people take for granted in everyday life and how he changed the trajectory of his life. Happy spring,
Is it
Dr.
summer
Tara.
yet, though? I hate to complain, but it's not warm enough.
And it's actually, we had some 80-degree days last week or the week before, and it's still been cold.
I know.
It was 30 or something the other day.
It's coming, though. We know the promise is there. Yeah.
Yeah. And summer's the fun time to do all the wild and crazy things and party it up and go out on your boat and do all your things. But have you ever been arrested?
Me? No. I've done a lot, but I have never been arrested. Thank God, right? But no, never. You?
Wow, yeah. Not even no.
Okay.
Girl, I'm an angel. No. No, but I've gotten my fair share of speeding tickets.
Never had one of them either.
Little run-ins.
No ticket. No.
You've never had a speeding ticket?
The only tickets I get are the BS ones from Easy Pass saying I didn't pay, even though the thing never leaves my windshield.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get those too. But oh my God, no speeding tickets? Wow.
Also, thank God. Yes.
Well, I did have a red Pontiac Grand Am back in the day, and so I feel like the red cars were hot tickets to get.
I know, and I have a red car, but no.
Yeah. Well, this was a fire engine red. Yours is
mine is yours is a ruby red. Yes.
Ruby red with your pretty baby, but yeah. So our guest today was arrested.
He was, but
and he's got a very interesting story, a comeback story, because we love comeback stories and we love stories of resiliency.
We do, because it's just a testament to the human spirit. And again, just like the hope of summer, we have faith it's coming. We also have to have faith and know that good things are coming in our life, no matter where we've been. So we are thrilled today to have in our studio Sean Martin, who is the author of Beyond the Bronx. He's also a transformational coach and, most importantly, a devoted father and husband. And I had the pleasure of hearing Sean speak last year and was so moved by what he had to say because I related to so much of it. And his story of triumph is so impressive and inspiring. So welcome to the Well Off Podcast, Sean.
Welcome, Sean. She does the best intros.
Thank you for having me. That was a great intro. And the soft-spokenness after the playfulness.
Yeah.
Have you ever been arrested? That's probably the most clever intro I've ever heard. So kudos.
Sean, have you been arrested? Let's hear the story. Tell our listeners who you are.
Once or twice. Not a pleasant experience, that's for sure. Anybody who's been arrested in the New York City area knows of those cheese sandwiches that they serve up, which can also double as two-sided tape because you see them stuck on the cell walls.
Really?
Ew, what?
So you're not missing much, ladies. You're not
I was going to say, I love cheese sandwiches.
That's
but
all you get to eat?
Not from the wall. In the Bronx, at least, I wouldn't have experiences outside of that. But yeah, the amenities pretty much suck, and there'll be three guys in a cell. That's let's say maybe 8 by 5. One will sleep under the metal bunk that's built into the wall. One on the bunk, who's usually either the first one there or the alpha, and then one person leaned up on the floor or against the wall.
Oh my
really
God.
a place where your humanity is
embraced. And do you have a toilet in there too?
Yes. So it depends. If you're in the precinct, they'll let you out to go to the toilet, and then if you're in processing to go into Rikers Island or something like that, they have larger cells that can hold 20 or 30 people, and then there's a toilet with no privacy right there in the corner. But very few people use that. You'll usually ask for permission and go into a more secure one.
That's nice.
Yeah, there's also people that I'm sure use this. So again, just an ugly place. might look a lot cooler on TV.
It
As
does.
we see all these instances where jail is glorified, but yeah,
And that
not a
is
place to be for
certainly
sure.
not where you are
So
now. No.
No,
no.
no.
Why'd you get arrested? Why'd you get arrested?
This episode of the Well Off Podcast is sponsored by The Long Drink. The Long Drink, Tara, did you know this is my favorite ready to drink cocktail? How could I not? She talks about it all the time. I do. And they have some really great new flavors. They have raspberry. Yummy. And they have, this is the original, which is a citrus flavor, which is delicious. It is delicious. And this is only 99 calories. Yes. And it's 0 sugar and 0 carbs in this one. This is the full flavor if you want a little bit more extra. And gluten-free. Obviously,
which I love.
Yes. And we have pineapple, we have raspberry, peach, and strong, in case you want a little extra buzz. Yes, yummy. So go get yourself a long drink. Visit your local retailer. It's your perfect summer drink. Or ask your favorite bartender. They're everywhere. Citrus soda, real liquor.
I was attempting to go out and have a good time one night, and I was in a place that I had no business being. When I partied in my 20s, I would party with working class people or people that just looking to celebrate the weekend and life and, a lot of the things we do when we're young. But I found myself in a place that was, as one of my colleagues later called it, very seedy. This was a place where, the hustlers hung out, the degenerates, the gamblers, the drunks, the drug dealers. But it was because of who I was with. And at that time in my life, the kind of moves I was making, the lines were really blurred. And I became the mark for a robbery, ironically enough, because I stuck out so much in my butter soft yellow jacket and my pretty boy appearance with a pocket full of cash and my diamond earrings and all that good stuff, flashing in the wrong place around the wrong people. And
would have totally asked you out for a date.
well, thanks. I appreciate that. Back in my day, I
What
would have
was
totally
it? The
accepted.
butter yellow
But,
or the diamonds? What was it?
The diamond earrings,
it was the
that was
collection of me looking like a deer in the headlights around all these criminals. And I was taken for a mark for a robbery. Unfortunately, it didn't work out like that. I don't get into too many of the details because there were other people that I was with that were involved. But violence ensued, weapons were pulled. We became the aggressors because where I come from, you don't turn
That's
the other
right.
cheek. You handle business yourself. And we did that. And unbeknownst to us, these were some seasoned criminals. They ended up using the system as a sword, not a shield, as one of the officers put it. And we ended up becoming the bad guys in the story. And unbeknownst to us, years later, when we copped out and took the plea, I ended up doing 2 years in state prison, New York State. My co-defendants did almost 5 because of their lengthy criminal history. We found out that the aggressors were actually all in prison for interstate drug trafficking. So these weren't necessarily good people. Some really, really seedy shit, if you would excuse my language. But this is where I was at that point in my life. I didn't have direction. I was chasing money. So a little bit more context. I was hustling at the time. So I was also working as a marketing rep, ironically enough, because I had a college degree, but I could never make the kind of money that I wanted to. So let's say I was making 50 grand a year at a pretty part-time gig because I knew how to make moves and connect people. So I was using my college degree and my gift of gab and my, suit and tie during the day, but I was also hustling knockoff clothes. So if you remember Juicy Couture sweatsuits and Ed Hardy, True Religion jeans, people couldn't afford that where I was from. So I used that to my advantage. I would buy them for 25, 30 bucks, sell them for 60. There's a chapter in the book early on that talks about the honest hustler. So even though I was a hustler, I would never take someone's mom and sell them a pair of Jordan sneakers or a pair of True Religion jeans that they would bring home to their kids who would then say, hey, mom, these are fake. So I charge fair prices, whereas someone else might charge 140, which is 20 or 30 bucks off the price tag. But you think you're buying something real and then you just feel cheated. So I never cheated anybody. Maybe that's a little pat on the back I give myself. But, even in the times when I was doing things that weren't in line with who I was as a human being, or who I wanted to be, rather, I was always honest. So I still had some integrity. And I think that came through that night. I had no business being in that place. And they saw that. And they saw me as I was served up. Like, let's get this mofo because this is going to be an easy target. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out that way. And I ended up doing that time in prison. And let me tell you, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. God, the universe has a plan for all of us. And
Yeah.
mine was to go to prison for a couple of years to learn the lessons that I just was not paying attention to with my
You know,
freedom in the street. So it was
and
all part
Sean,
of
you
a bigger plan
mentioned
for me.
that even though this happened and you had this experience, that you still had honesty in your life. And in my line of work, I've met murderers, rapists,
You
of
have?
course.
And she hasn't been
No,
arrested. She
but
didn't have to be.
for
Wait, do you
therapy.
have to like keep
Yes,
that?
yes, it's confidential.
Yeah.
And
And because of that, I know there's goodness in everybody and I see goodness. And I would
Yeah.
imagine, even the worst of the worst in prison, there's always something redeemable.
Yeah. I'm going to zoom into the goosebumps here because as you say that, I always use my prison experience in the context of I needed, and I'm getting really emotional right now. I needed to meet people who were murderers, who were rapists, um, who were violent people, to see that there were still good people who made bad decisions or were
Yes.
raised poorly or had things, didn't have a blueprint, didn't have love, didn't have support. They were in survival mode. Again, prison gave me, or I wouldn't say gave me, because my mother gave me that, but it enhanced me and the level of compassion that I have for my fellow humans to a level that I unfortunately do not see too often. I get to be around Tony Robbins, and that's the kind of person that I would aspire to be like. Like, I want to be a cheerleader for humanity, and I think I needed to experience that and be with the lowest of the low in order to realize that they are not the lowest of the low. They're human beings just like the rest of us. And just to point that out, and I think before we started rolling, we talked about people having more in
Right.
common than they do apart. I remember an interaction with a corrections officer where I got into trouble in the dorm for doing some stupid shit. And he, as punishment, he would make you go around and polish the knobs, the brass knobs of the whole floor, right? Like you're polishing knobs. So that's a play on words for a guy
Uh-huh.
to go polish knobs. And I remember this guy, and we were talking about Sarah Palin. I think this was when she
Yes.
ran with John McCain and the whole
When she
scandal
could
came out.
see
And
Russia
they
from
had the hot,
Alaska. Yeah.
yeah.
Not the sharpest tool in the
Oh,
shed.
man. So,
no,
not the
no.
sharpest, but she
Yes,
was
she
decent
was.
looking
She
apparently because this
was.
guy had the hots for her. And, we started laughing and I just poignantly said to him, I was like, listen, officer, whatever his name was, Smith, we've got more in common, you and I do, than any of those politicians vote, or, fighting for your vote, vying for your vote.
Yeah.
And he paused and I could tell it hit him. I could
Yeah.
tell it hit him because most people don't have a representative or someone who gets both sides so grandly, who's had an experience of being in prison and being told to bend over and cough 2 times, all this stuff you've seen on TV, and then someone who gets to see Tony Robbins or hang out with people who've built 8 and 9 figure businesses, and more importantly, are great husbands and fathers and community leaders. So I have this wide swath that I would not have had if I didn't experience that. And I have this compassion to serve that I would not have had if I had not had that experience. So for sure, human beings that have made some mistakes, and some of them have done some terrible things, and some of them are redeemable. I think
Yeah.
most of them are redeemable. The good majority of them are redeemable. There are some very terrible people in the world as well, but I think
I
that's
don't
the
know that they're all
exception
in jail,
to
though,
the
right,
rule.
Sean? They're out in the wild.
No, I think a lot of them, are in our government. I
Yeah.
think some of them control the corporations that run the world.
Yes,
But that's for another
exactly.
subject.
Exactly.
Yeah, so good and bad doesn't necessarily mean you've been punished and put to prison. For
So
sure.
you came out of prison. How old were you?
I was
Okay.
31
So not a
when
baby.
I
Not a
came home
baby.
initially. No,
Yeah.
I mean, who goes to 4-year college, makes over 100 grand a year, and then goes to prison for a little variety in the
Sure.
life
Sure.
resume?
But plenty of people can and do get so down and defeated by an experience like you had, and it then defines them and they can't get out of it. It's like they are in the mud and they can't see a way out, but you were able to. So talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
I
hear.
think, as you say that, what comes to mind is we have this
Yes.
mental health crisis, right, that we're living through. And I think it's a crisis of purpose. I think it's a crisis of people moving and doing something, just not knowing what to do, being distracted, not having the hardship kind of build them up. And, you know, the bottom line is people have a choice. At some point, you may be running on autopilot for a good part of your life. But if prison is not a wake up call, if your freedom being snatched from you is not a wake up call, I don't know what is. And ironically, being in prison was some of the most peaceful time in my life because I did not have the responsibilities of the world. And a lot of people find solace, especially the men that I met in prison. It's easier for them to
Mhm.
survive in that environment where you have
Yep.
3 hots in a cot and there's structure and they tell you what to do than to be in the street and have to look for a job and have to face rejection, which then triggers all those emotions from suffering as a kid. And they're trying to avoid that at all costs. So they numb themselves. Again, I'm very familiar with all of this, not because I studied it,
Sure.
because I lived it and because I
Yeah.
still battle that shadow, self, that kid who was seeking this or that and shows up
Yes.
as an adult that way. But there is an awareness around it that allows me to fight and to not give up and to know that as long as I don't give up and there's air in my lungs, I can keep moving forward. And I think I use those two examples of people in society with quote unquote mental health debilitations, right? That keep them from moving
Right.
and being stuck, like you said. And then people who have real strikes that keep them stuck. A system that is designed to not
Mhm.
reward mistakes, it's designed
Right.
to keep you from being able to excel. So it's easy for me to see the person who has the criminal record not moving. It's not as easy for me to see the person who has debilitating anxiety or
Sure.
uncertainty not moving. But the two of them are connected in this one way. Both are trying to avoid pain. And in doing so, they're actually setting in motion a cycle of creating more pain for themselves. Because by trying to avoid discomfort, you're creating a mindset that just makes you weaker. And again, it's a broken record. It just starts becoming a loop. So the difference between me and that is simply not giving up and understanding that I need to suffer, I need to take bumps and bruises in order to move forward. So even now, I'll give you an example. Recently, I wanted to cash out and refinance some of my real estate properties that I have, and the criminal record was an obstacle. It
Yes.
always will be. That does not change for me. I will be applying for my application at an old folks home one day,
Yeah.
and they're going to be like, "Oh, you got a
Exactly.
criminal record for
Yeah, you're
2009."
yeah,
And again, this is just part of the story. I think,
right.
oh, we just, I'm looking at my system, I'm pointing because we just applied for something online, an app, and it's taking longer than usual. And I said, oh, it's probably
Right.
because my criminal history. TSA pre-check, I
Okay.
have that.
Yeah.
And it took a little longer, but I have it. So to anybody who has a criminal record,
Mhm.
you have rights. And once you're off parole and paper, you have the right to vote again. You have the
Yes.
right to live a normal life. But it's you that has to make the decision and understand that you're going to run into this obstacle all the time. And if you start to use it as something that is just going to happen as opposed to something that's holding you back,
Right.
that is
And
what the difference maker
and
is.
that's
So
what
it's like fear.
happens,
It's never
right? To
not
a
going to
lot
be
of
part of it.
people. Mhm.
Fear is always going to be part of your life. Don't let it be the one in control. If you have a criminal record, it's always going to be part of your life. Just don't let it be the thing controlling the outcome. Just keep showing up, keep trying. But the problem is most people can't take rejection.
Yeah.
And these big, strong criminals, or however you want to stereotype them, are some of the least inclined people
Right.
to accept rejection. They are some of the most wounded human
Yes.
beings you will ever meet in your life. And that's where the compassion component came in.
So you spent 2 years in prison and you got out. So you were 31. So you got out when you were 33. And how old are you now?
47 now, about to be 48. Had to
All
think
right.
about
Hey,
that one
you're
for a
my
minute.
age. So
Yeah,
But we
you
look good,
do.
damn
Yeah,
it.
you do.
I know we do. We don't look a day over 30, I'd say.
Oh, stop it.
So yeah, so you've had all this time. Tell us what happened when you got out and how you really changed your mindset and was like, okay, this happened. I'm putting it in the past. I'm going to change the trajectory of my life and make shit happen. Did that happen overnight, or how did
No,
that
it
happen?
actually happened in prison. So I picked up Awaken the Giant by Tony Robbins in a prison cell.
Okay.
And I started to read self development after that. I have a black and white notebook,
Yeah.
composition notebook, the old marble notebooks, and I
Yeah,
started
yeah.
writing what my goals were going to be. Not only 30 days, 90 days, down to I'm going to brush my teeth twice a day. I have a little checkbox because I mean,
Love it.
nothing but time. It's the most disciplined I've ever been. Has
Yeah,
been in
I
prison.
bet.
There's no distractions. But that book changed everything for me because it let me know that I was telling myself a story. And if I was telling myself a story, I could write whatever story I wanted. I learned about NLP in prison. I started reading the Dalai Lama, John Maxwell, Stephen Covey, Dale Carnegie, you name it. Plenty of fiction as well, don't get me wrong, but close to 200 books I read, and that's where it started. Without that distraction, with that peace that I found and that extra time, I started to read and I started to explore the mind versus the distractions of the streets and all the things that life has to do to distract us. And that opened my mind to the point where I created a vision for my life 1 year, 3 years out, 5 years out, and almost all of those things came true. And I'd be remiss not to share this part of the story. Less than a year before going in, I met my now wife, and that was what held me through. That was something that I got to look forward to, and I later learned in therapy that it was the big difference maker. Knowing that I had love to come home to, someone waiting for me. So I'd love to tell you that I hit the ground running, but I was still on parole for 2 months. I actually violated parole. They sent me to prison for
Wow.
another 5 months.
Oh my
Uh,
God. Why did you violate parole?
Being out
Oh.
late, so not following the rules. And as my parole officer was inclined to tell me that night, as I was trying to convince them to
Hmm.
not take me to jail again,
Right.
Mr. Martin, because you're smart and well spoken, the rules don't apply to you. And looking back, as hurt and as pissed as I was, they were absolutely right.
Right.
I still had to
Yeah.
learn the lesson. Obviously, you don't want anybody hovering over you,
Sure.
telling you what not to do and what to do, especially when you know your heart and you know in your heart you're not like everybody else.
Hmm.
They didn't give two shits. I had my wife to come home to a little basement apartment in the Bronx that we lived in, which was an illegal basement apartment. But we came home and we lived like two kids in love on $500 a week and whatever $18 an hour she was making. Some of the happiest times in my life because the perspective had shifted so grandly because I was so just enthralled with the air I got to breathe, the
Yeah.
freedom that I had. I could jump on a train. I didn't care if I had to be back by 8 o'clock or 7, whatever it was at the time. Obviously, I missed that one, one day too late. But I mean, it was like living like a teenager again. And then life starts to creep in. And then you start to make more money. And then all the things that you wanted, you start to realize, oh, there's a cost of all these desires that we have. And I marketed for someone else for years. And it wasn't until that person screwed me over and I had helped them build their own business that I decided, you know what? It's time to take a chance on myself. The business plan had been written out for years, but it wasn't until I had no other choice because I had been screwed that I decided, you know what? Now's the time. And I think so many people suffer at the hands of wanting certainty that they never pull the trigger on their dreams. They never pull the business on the idea or the business that they have that they know they can do because
Right.
there's
I
no
love that you
guarantees behind
use
them.
that
So
language,
when there's
Sean,
no
because a lot
guarantee,
of times we'll say, people want to be comfortable or they're complacent, but wanting certainty, that is so accurate.
yeah.
They don't want the
Well, I
unknown. They
mean,
don't want to uh, venture
that's a
out
basic
and get a
human
new
need.
job and meet new people or stay in a relationship that's abusive or unfulfilling for that very reason.
Human beings will always
Yes,
gravitate toward the familiar, even when it's chaos and
absolutely.
unhealthy and traumatic. 7 times, I believe, is the average it takes
That's
for a
right.
woman who's battered to leave. And that means there's
That's
people that
right.
never leave and survive. There's people that never leave and they're dead. And there's people that never leave and
Mhm.
repeat the cycle for generations. And then there's people that leave at the
Yes.
first inclination that your voice raises at them. Because they're
That's
like,
me
oh, I
now.
suffered this with my father. And I always use the example, You will meet plenty of alcoholics that their parents were
Yes.
alcoholics. And you will meet plenty of people in the world that never picked up a drink because their
Right.
parents were alcoholics.
Yep.
So I don't necessarily believe it's a genetic thing as much as it's an
Mm-hmm.
environmental thing. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's
Yes. Yes.
particulars there with DNA and all that, but it's not the driving force. It's the
Mm-hmm.
environment and what you see as acceptable and the standards, that you were raised around and what you hold for yourself later on. And that's been the toughest thing for me is raising the standards of how
Mm-hmm.
I live my life, how I want my family to be raised, because I never saw it growing up. And it's not a knock on where I come from. It's just
Right.
the reality of where I came from. So now I get to create my own reality. And the shit is hard, but you've got to
Yeah.
surround yourself with people that want the same things. They want more. They do the right thing. Proximity truly is power, and environment is definitely a shaping factor.
Mother's Day offers a gentle reminder that the comfort mom gives us can be hers too.
Yes. And Tara, what are you looking forward to getting on Mother's Day?
Peace and quiet, and a little comfort.
Well, it looks like you're pretty comfortable right now. So, do you want another one of those? What are you wearing?
Right now, I'm wearing my favorite Cozy Earth robe. It has spacious pockets, adjustable ties, a cozy silhouette, and every moment feels intentional. I put it on before bed, and it gives me that feeling that I'm ready to wind down and just relax.
I love that. And I am wearing a very oversized cozy robe. I love it so, so much. I love my robes nice and big. I put it on after I get out of the shower. It is dry wicking and it is just so amazing.
And it looks like you're wearing a Cozy Earth wrap as well.
I am. So this is the Waffle Cozy Earth hair wrap, which is amazing as well. It like dries my hair almost instantly, not completely, but very well.
And because home starts with mom, we want everyone's mom to feel comfortable and luxurious in their homes this Mother's Day. So visit cozyearth.com and use our code CozyWellOff and treat mom to 20% off of intentional luxury.
Yes, because Cozy Earth truly stands out because it highlights the softness, the quality, and comfort that supports mother figures through their busy days and quiet moments, offering a small piece of everyday luxury that cares back.
So go right now to cozyearth.com, code CozyWellOff, and get mom the gift of luxury right now.
Yeah,
To where we
that's
want.
how yeah, I was going to say, Tara and I talk about that all the time about, it's so important to who you're surrounding yourself with and, what you've been around in the past. Like I know personally, I've been around a lot of alcoholics in the past and
Yeah.
now I drink less because of it. And I don't like to be around people that are drunk anymore. If they're, I just,
It's wild
just
how that changes.
yeah, I want
So
nothing to do
wild.
with it really.
Yeah, I mean, you will not catch me out. And again, people that I used to hang out with, I mean, I was the same energy I bring and good. I was bringing for like, I wouldn't ever be negative. I would just be a happy drinker. So I
Yeah.
mean, like, yeah, come on, let's
Right,
go. And I was
right.
the
But
guy pushing the
still,
party.
yeah,
And now I sit back and I watch and I'm like, oh my God,
I
I thought
know.
I was cool, but I must have
I
been
don't
like,
want to be out
Yeah.
of control anymore. Like, or not
right.
have full control over my actions. And so, I mean, I can't
Amen.
even tell you the
Yeah.
last time I was drunk. So,
Amen.
anyway,
Amen. I know for me personally, I just can't do it. I'm not willing to take the risk. Everything I've gained as a result of not picking up a drink is worth never picking one up again. And
so you
that's
don't drink at all?
kudos to you. I don't drink at all. I don't
Oh,
test the
wow.
waters. I could never have one. I'm
Right.
just not that kind of guy.
Oh, yeah. See, I can just have one and call it a day.
I am not a one kind of guy, whether it comes with what I'm doing, speaking,
You're all in. You're
authorship,
all in. You're
parenthood.
committed to the
He's
program.
all in. Yeah.
So, Sean,
All
let's
in. So drinks is one
let's
thing people
fast
be all
forward.
out
Let's
on.
get beyond the Bronx to where you are today, what you're doing now, and who is your typical client? Like, bring us up to date.
Sure. So after being released from prison, after leaving that job and starting my own business, I started a medical supply company here in the New York City metro area. So we do durable medical equipment, orthopedic bracing, in-home rehabilitation, cold therapy, passive motion, post-surgical devices, you name it. And the reason that I was able to be successful at it was my relationships, my ability to connect with other people and then connect those people with other people. So I was a connector by nature. By trade, I was always a marketer. and a salesman of some kind, but never a hard seller. Just somebody who
Yes.
sold themselves. And that has worked wonders for me. So I built up this company. We've had some amazing success in the space, but it just wasn't fulfilling me. And a few years ago, after getting sober and starting to dive into Tony Robbins in person and self development, I just decided, you know what? It's time to pivot. And I started moving into the space of personal development, coaching, which led to then, the speaking engagements and writing this book. And my goal with the money mindset movement, which I founded around this coaching program, was to help people change their money mindset, just as it says. And although it starts with money, most people don't realize the mindset it's going to allow you to keep it and make much more of it. And the reason I say that is because as someone who comes from poverty and humble beginnings and
Right.
was never taught about money, I didn't realize the psychological component of not feeling worthy. We will find any reason to blow that money. And that's why you see the ghetto fabulousness in the hood or any, impoverished community of color or otherwise, where there's an abundance of people looking really sharp with no money in their pocket, no assets, no money down the line. And this stems into entrepreneurship as well. So you
Yeah.
may have incredibly talented entrepreneurs who have cracked the code as far as their little world is concerned. Maybe they're mid six figures. Maybe their business has even touched seven figures or multiple seven figures, but only to slide back down. And that's because a business is made in the image of its owner. So I want to be a guide for entrepreneurs like myself who have pissed away so much money, time, and opportunity because they never took the time to learn it. If you look at NFL players and athletes, they are the
Yes.
best shining examples of how to piss away tens of
Yeah.
millions of dollars
Right.
because they don't come from it. They were never taught how to manage it, and they
Yeah.
never changed the mindset
Like
around it.
lottery
So with the money
winners.
mindset movement,
They, yes,
lottery
yes.
winners are another example.
I
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I once read,
Absolutely.
Sean, that we're expected to be good with money and good at sex, but nobody teaches us how, and nobody wants it to, right? And nobody talks about it.
That's pretty
I was
good.
more concerned with the former in my young age. I had
But
to
it-
figure that out on my own. The money thing took a lot longer.
But it's true.
and,
There's like an
I've been suffering as a
expectation.
result.
Like we should know how. We should just know.
Well, hey, let's dive into that, right? The prowess of male or female, but let's just speak from my perspective as a male. There is a self-worth attached to how many women you can conquer and how good of a
Right.
guy you are in bed or how you can please a woman. Money is superficial like that too. It makes you feel good about yourself. So you buy things that maybe you can afford technically, but you shouldn't be buying because of how they make other people look at you. So again, I had a years ago when I was single and running around like a chicken without a head. One of my family members who's male, and we're Dominican, so you can imagine there's machismo there. He always used to tell me, "You're only as good as your last performance, nephew." And when it came to that subject, and there was more emphasis put on that. And I have friends that are colleagues that still means more to them and their identity
Right.
than financial success. Or we gravitate toward things that we're
Right.
good at that make us feel good, even at the expense of
To- to-
everything else.
I was gonna say to quote Taylor Swift, "You're only as hot as your last hit."
There you go. With less
Yes.
inappropriate context, for sure.
Yep.
I should
You're only
have
as hot as your
quoted
last hit.
Taylor
I mean,
Swift.
she is a genius.
But you
There's
know
that,
what?
but-
Getting
Oh,
back
my
to,
gosh.
needing to be good at or with money and sex, like when you think about the money thing, people have so much trauma around money. And that's why I said when
Yeah.
I heard you speak, I was like, this man, is he telling my life story? Because when you grow up and you don't have, right, or you rely on public assistance and all you ever hear is we don't have it, I can't afford it, that gets into your soul. And then you get the money
Yeah.
in your hand and like what you were saying, you believe somehow, well, if that's what people do when they have money, they buy designer things or whatever, but then you end up broke again because it's such a negative relationship, just like how people with eating disorders have a negative relationship with food, right? They don't know how to have a healthy balance, but I too come from that space, and now it feels so good to say, yes, I can buy that, but I don't want it and I don't need it, and I would much rather be building up generational wealth and leave something to my kids, but
except for those rag and bone
I did get them on sale though. Yeah. I did get them. And they look look so good, but
they do.
Yeah, but it takes time. It takes time, and I think too, like
it takes pain too that you want to avoid later. I don't live my life in any kind of regret. I've blown through millions and millions and millions, probably north of $10 million.
Get it?
In learning the lessons, but I also am willing to spend that money recklessly on growth now. So I've made decisions to be in groups that I shouldn't, that cost money, that when I say what it costs, people are like, what? Are you out of your mind? It's just unfathomable to them. But opportunity presents itself to me and I will jump at it. Recklessly sometimes, but that's how much I've come to believe in myself, what I'm doing, and what the future holds. And that only comes through taking massive losses and taking massive risks. So there's a healthy balance that I'm still striking myself personally. And the only way to do it is to get around the people who are doing it in a manner that you can learn from. So I'll use Chad Willardson, who's become a good friend of mine from my Zenith Mastermind group. And this is a gentleman who's extremely wealthy. He's a wealth management person who manages, I want to say, close to $2 billion now of other people's money and family offices. And this is a guy who came from the middle class in California. He's got 5 amazing kids. He's, I think, a year or 2 younger than me. They've been married 20-something years. He's of the Latter-day Saints Mormon faith, so that explains that. The gentleman's got a private jet.
How many wives does he have?
Okay.
Just the one. And he adores her. She's awesome. He's got a private jet, which he shares. And the only reason he's got it is so that he can be to and from all of his kids' games, because they're in different states and a lot of them are athletes, and he's got 5 kids and he's got a bunch of things going on professionally. So if you mention to this guy watches, I remember we were at a recent event and Tony Robbins came in with a Richard Mille watch.
Yes.
Richard Mille. And my boy runs up to me. He's like, hey. And he's showing, hey, that's the watch.
Yeah.
It's like $700,000. And I'm like, that's fucking ridiculous. Why would somebody, it's Tony Robbins, he's worth $1 billion. And my boy Chad goes, what's a Richard Mille? And it was about as genuine as, the guy owns a jet.
I never heard of that.
Know about watches because he's not about it.
She didn't know. She didn't know.
Either.
All right, listen. I mean, again, why the hell would we? It costs like $500,000 or more.
Apple Watch on right now.
Me too.
I walk in those events with my Apple Watch too. And there's a few guys like that. But some people love status symbols. Some people love watches for real. They love the artistic nature of the process. Good for them. But this gentleman has shown me what real value can be. And yes, you can have a private jet, which is pretty extravagant, but not to piss it away. It's to be present because he's built his life around his family. So again, just being in an environment where this seemingly impossible, like you got to be a douchebag to have that much money, right? That's what we believed.
Right. Money is the root of all evil. Right.
Money's the root of all evil. So here's what we do
more
with
problems.
More money is definitely more problems. But if we look at the root of that, and that's the simplest way, money's the root of all evil. How the hell are you ever going to make an abundance of money in your life if you hold on to that belief subconsciously?
You won't. You
won't. And that's what we see when you come from poverty. You will find an excuse not to make money. One of the first things I learned, I remember being in the
people that have it or judge them, right?
Judge them in advance.
Yeah.
Then how can you be them?
The first delve I ever had, and it's out of ignorance. So that's out of playing small to protect yourself from something you don't believe, uncomfortability, because you're ignorant to how this person lives. I always thought billionaires were douchebags until I got to my first Tony Robbins event, Platinum Finance, where he interviews a bunch of billionaires. For context, Steve
Yes.
Forbes of the Forbes family was the brokest guy he interviewed. He was only worth $500 million. Everybody else was in the billions, multi-billions. Jamie Dimon from CEO Chase Bank, you name it, he interviewed him. And you got to see a side of these people that most people never would. They're good people, most of them. They do good in the world. Do they manage huge institutions that you could point to some evil capitalist things happening? Absolutely. But I will not judge people anymore based on the money that they have or make until I have a conversation with them. And I don't even give a shit if I see something on social media that paints a picture of them being an asshole. You still need to give me the context. So one of the biggest successes I've had by being in these rooms where I'm the brokest, dumbest guy, I jokingly say, is I never talk to any of them about money. And they appreciate it more than you would ever know. Because everybody identifies them with their wealth and not their humanity. And my gift is truly that. It's to judge you by your heart first, and the rest will follow. I've literally told some of these people, I don't give a shit how rich you are, how much money you make.
That's right.
If I don't like you, I don't like you. And that means nothing to them because who am I? But to me, it means everything.
So tell us quickly about your podcast. So you have a podcast, you wrote this book, you have this coaching business. What do you do with your podcast?
So the podcast is called the Real Mentors Podcast. It's an acronym for Real Examples Altering Lives. So the real actually I came up with it in prison. Ironically enough, I wrote in my notebook, the secret to living a life of my dreams is to help as many people as possible. And I needed to get my shit together for the following decade to be where I am now, but I always knew it. And the podcast came as a result of that. Just getting started. How do I just get started on the mission? Let's do a podcast based on this acronym I came up with after I spoke to some students at a high school one time. And the idea is two-pronged. I want to teach entrepreneurship through telling stories of people who have found success at all levels, whether they have a side hustle t-shirt business in the hood or they are managing a $1.6 billion fund. Whatever it is, if I have access to those lessons, I want to share them with our audience so that they can be inspired to become entrepreneurs or at least entertain that dream, because everybody wants comfortability and wealth, but nobody understands that you'll never get it trading your time for money. So by telling all these variations of stories, it at least gives them the inclination to say, I can do it too. And then the second premise of the show is to give a platform and a voice to people that are doing God's work in the community. And by that, I mean nonprofit work. They're helping people in prisons. They've got a story of a comeback or resilience that needs to be shared, and they share that with students or whatever. So instead of clicking a link to a charity for a few $100, I'll produce a high quality episode to tell their story. We produce reels that we can share with them so they can, hopefully attract more donations and more visibility. So that's the premise of the show, is to give back to our audience and to give back to the community in the sense of hosting people that are out there doing boots on the ground work, which is extremely, extremely valuable and needed because I think so many people bitch and complain about the system and the way things are, but they actually don't do anything to change it. So I always say the easiest thing to do is to change yourself and everything else will change. But to the people who have dedicated their life to change, they've taken it on the chin, because that is not a fiscally exciting life that they get to lead, to make change in people's lives on a daily basis. So whether or not they work for a charity or they started a charity, most of them are sucking wind financially, just like the rest of us. And, they don't really get rewarded.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not rewarded with wealth. I mean, we look at teachers, right? One of the most valuable jobs and impactful jobs. And unless you live in a very well-off suburban neighborhood with, great pay structure, chances are you're underpaid. And this is the story of most people who have chosen to work admirable jobs for a living. So we push entrepreneurship as the solution to that problem if it's something that you see as something you want to do. And I think most people have the ability to do it. They just don't believe they have the ability to do it.
Got it. Awesome. Well, we have one last question to ask.
And everyone gets asked this question. You ready? I can't wait to hear what you say. What does well off mean to you?
It used to mean that I had money. And there's still a connotation that first comes to mind is, well, he's well off, right? What I now list as well off is wealth. And true wealth is the feeling you get when you wake up in the morning, knowing that it's going to be okay, knowing that you are loved, you have the ability to receive it, to give it, to share it with others. The only financial component in there that I would include this day and age is that you were comfortable, meaning you could provide, right? You could provide a living. The rest you really need to learn to figure out while you chase down the money. I think there's this myth that the money will make you happy. And I always say, and I think I probably said it at the time you saw me, which was, money won't make you happy, but it will buy you freedom. And what you choose to do with said freedom can change everything for you. And that's what I'm aiming to help people do.
I love that ending. That
Your
quote.
answer made me feel warm in my heart. Yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Sean Martin, tell our listeners how they can find you, where they can buy your book, where they're going to listen to your podcast, how they're going to find you for transformational coaching.
Yeah, the easiest way is at The Real Sean Martin, TheReal, Sean, SEAN, Martin.com. You can check off all the boxes. We'll actually, if you sign up for our email list, we'll give you a free ebook of Beyond the Bronx from Prison to Purpose. So you can check that off the box. You don't even have to buy it. And we'll give you a copy of our Money Mindset Movement workbook, which will help you get started down the road and start asking yourself the questions that are going to make real impact in your life and real transformation possible. If you want to follow us on social media, we're on all of it. IG, TikTok, which I've never had on my phone, but I know it's out there somewhere. YouTube's a big platform for us as well as Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it, Sean Martin. Just look for me by name.
Thank you for sharing your story, your heart, and the inspiration with us today. We're very grateful.
Well, I'm grateful for you both to make a dynamic duo, finally getting to speak to the two of you. I see the appeal. I love it. And thank you for your platform and giving me the time.
God bless.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.